Good morning, you beautiful people. This is the Leafs Convo podcast for Vanguard Northeast Realty in Toronto. VanguardNE.ca. I'm Norman James in London, Ontario, Canada. Joined as always by my podcast partner in crime, my brother from another mother, the legendary, the one and only Mike Augello. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Norman. I don't know if I can recover from that compliment infused
Yeah.
greeting, but the Maple Leafs are playing well. Things are going well for them. But you watched the Boston Bruins last night, which I did intently against Carolina,
Yeah.
and they haven't lost since January 19th. So the way it's going right now, in spite of the Leafs on pace for over 100 points, I don't know if they're going to get home ice advantage.
And home ice advantage, Mike, is important because
Well, home ice advantage is important for them because they don't seem to win at TD Garden. I know they won last year their one playoff game, but Frederick Anderson essentially had to be superhuman for them to win that game. And it was when they were down 3-1, so the pressure was sort of off the Bruins. But they really have to get home ice advantage if they have any chance against Boston. I mean, again, Boston has just been, and they're doing this without Pasternak. So, there'll be a lull probably when he comes back because teams always, take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit when their star player comes back. They think everything's going to be easier. But I mean, this is a scary team in the first round. The Leafs know it, but it's a question of difference between knowing it and actually being able to do something about it.
Leaf fans who think the Leafs can and will overcome Boston this spring look at the Bruins and think, they're blowing their wad early, Mike. Your words, not mine. They are playing really well, and they're going to go bust. I'm hoping that's the case. There's always a way to rationalize what your situation is and come to terms with what the opposition or your enemy's situation is. What I'm thinking right now, Mike, is Boston can play as well as it can. It could win every single game between now and the end of the season and grab home ice advantage. The Maple Leafs can only take care of what the Maple Leafs are able to control. Right, Mike?
Yeah, and as I said in a column a couple days ago on Hockey Buzz, after this week, because the Bruins are on a homestand, they played Carolina last night. They have a couple other ones this week. And the Leafs finish off the Western Canada road trip. The schedules, there'll be 14 games left. The Leafs will have 7 home, 7 away, and the Bruins will have 4 at home and 10 on the road.
Yeah.
That's that's enough of an advantage if the Leafs can take care of business at home that they could catch the Bruins. But the schedules are remarkably even in strength of schedule and games. So it's going to be tough to make up 3 points, just like it's going to be tough for teams 3 points out of a playoff spot to gain territory. And the thing is, the Leafs don't play the Bruins anymore, so there are no head-to-head matchups.
Who has the greater odds when the Leafs and the Bruins meet up? Because we believe that's going to be the case in April. The Bruins beat the Leafs yet again, or are the odds greater that the Leafs finally get over the hump and beat the Bruins? I have to think, how many years in a row can Boston beat the Leafs in the playoffs and continue to overcome a team that, at least on paper, seems to get better and better and almost at the same level as the Bruins right now?
There's no question the Leafs are a better team talent-wise this year than they were last year. But I think last year's team, in terms of being able to withstand and respond to pushback, or to respond to physicality like the Bruins put up, was better last year. They had Pollock, they had Komarov, even though they were bit players, and Kadri until he threw the hit that got him suspended. This year they have more offensive talent, and that's how they're going to have to, and speed. That's how they're going to have to be able to beat the Bruins. And also, they're going to need Freddie Anderson to play like he played against Calgary. He was lights out against the Flames, and frankly, he was inconsistent in the 7-game series last year, and I think that was a factor because of his overuse. He was played 66 games, and he's on pace for only playing a few less than that this year. So I think the Bruins are still going to be favored going into the series. I think the Leafs have a chance, but it's going to depend. It's going to depend on a number of factors, and you can't ignore the sort of psychological thing that's going on there. I mean, maybe it's not with the team, but I know definitely with the fan base, a lot of people don't think they can beat the Bruins.
Yeah, we know all this. The Leafs have to go into a series with the rival Bruins, no fear, have plenty of fun, play some damn hockey, win a damn series, and you'll turn the tide. You'll change history. You'll get over this huge hump. You'll achieve a milestone, and whether you win another series this season, I mean, it's gravy because you just need to get through Boston. And even if you have to play them again next year, having beaten them this year, all bets are off. This is Leafs Convo, Norman James with Mike Augello. You know how much I love me some Tyler Ennis and Trevor Moore. And Nick Petan scored the biggest goal of his career the other night for the Maple Leafs. These guys on the same line, it's not only a conceptualization, we might actually see it. I mean, these guys were working on the same line in practice. I really want to see this fourth line. And the fact that we're talking about a fourth line and how it's put together tells us that this team, at least from a group of forwards, is pretty well off, that we are actually thinking about the fourth line and how it can be a game changer. Mike, there are a lot of deficiencies with this team, but the forward group is not one of them.
No, and I mean, based on what I've been told about Patan and what I saw, I mean, a colleague in Winnipeg, told me he's a high skilled player. It didn't fit with Winnipeg as one of those teams that is so loaded at forward that they just didn't have room for him. But he looked good in his first game. It's a 1-game window. He can play center. He can play the wing, which is good flexibility that the Leafs will need in the playoffs in case somebody goes down. And in practice, they put together, I mean, it's a Smurf line. It's a speed line of Moore, Patan, and Ennis. I mean, you're not going to get size out of it, but you are going to get, feistiness. You are going to get like just that annoying water bug quality out of these guys where they just, they're going to annoy other teams and be able to skate around other fourth lines. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Freddie Gauthier. It's just, like I told you, I mean, I don't know if he really is an NHL forward. I know that he's improved lately. I know that he's been able to score with Trevor Moore in the lineup. I think that's more a creation of Trevor Moore, actually. I mean, he's been great in his window of 12 games, scoring a goal and 6 assists as a fourth liner, getting fourth line minutes. So, and Tyler Ennis, I hope that Kyle Dubas is as proactive as he's been with Kylie Rosen and with Trevor Moore, and that he will be that proactive with Tyler Ennis, because he's well liked and he's got 12 goals.
He's a good Mike. He's a good. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is a really good hockey player, and he's been a good hockey player throughout his entire career. He's on the fourth line on a team that has legendary forwards. This guy could be a second line player somewhere where you don't have the riches of talent up front. This guy is he's a good player. That fourth line, I don't care how small they are. They're feisty. They're snarky. They're smart. These guys are. I'm telling you right now, that's a fantastic fourth line. I know that they're a height challenge, but aren't we all?
His problems in Buffalo were not talent. It was durability. I mean, he's a smaller guy, and playing in a top 6, top 9 role, he took a beating.
Sure.
And that's the reason why he was less effective with Minnesota, and they bought him out. But he's found his niche. He's found his role in Toronto. He might be able to. I mean, he got a buyout. He got a lot of money from Minnesota. He might just be content at 29, going on 30, to sign a decent deal and stay in a place where he's liked and where he can be used. But he might want to go someplace else. But sure. I mean, looking at how effective he's been, I definitely would like to see him come back next year. But yeah, I mean, I think what Babcock is looking for with the potential line change of putting Patan up the middle with Moore and Ennis is flexibility. In a playoff scenario, he's not going to beat the Bruins going brawn on brawn, because frankly, the Leafs don't have much brawn.
No.
And so if you put a guy like Gauthier out there, the fourth liners on the Bruins might be able to take advantage of him. But if you've got a speed line going on the fourth line, that might put them on their heels. So I think he's looking at that. I think he'll give Patan, he'll mix him in and out of the lineup, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the last 16 games.
The way I view the Boston thing is like you're on one of these big Le Mans auto races where you're driving through different times of the day,
Was
different.
that Lamaze or Le Mans?
Yeah, like careful now. You're just getting pretty nasty. Parental advisory, folks. The Leafs Convo. Listen at your own listen at your own peril. But what I'm saying is, you're going through just different terrain to get from A to B to win that championship. I mean, you're going to encounter all kinds of stuff. The Boston series, it could get crazy. It could get wild. You're going to have to push back. You're going to have to, when in Rome, you're going to have to play their game at times. That's all I want. I want a team. I want a Leafs team that is capable of rising to that challenge and playing that Boston game, winning that series, and then wrapping it up, tying with a bow, and sending it off FedEx. Moving on to the next. And if you have to play a completely different style of game against Tampa, which you probably would, but you never know, that could get chippy too. You play your own game, and you're as good as you possibly can be. But there are times where the oppositions ain't no joke, and they're not messing around. They're ready for you. Are you ready for them? You might be ready for your own game. Are you ready for them? Nazem Kadri, I miss him. I miss me some 43. I miss him.
Well, he did practice yesterday, so and that is an indicator that he's close. Whether that means he gets in tonight against Vancouver or not, I'm not sure. Maybe they give him a few extra days since it was a concussion, and he plays Edmonton on Saturday. But it sounds like he's relatively close. And and they're in a situation where I mean, you want all your players back as quickly as possible. When it comes to a concussion, you take an extra couple days and you make sure everything is fine. It sounds like it's pretty close. So I think that's good news for the Leafs. And if that happens, then I think you're going to see a little bit of a change in terms of the line structure. You're probably, you could see Nylander go back up with Matthews, or he could just shift over to the right side with Kadri as it was before the injury. I mean, I think that the Matthews line in the last few games has gotten a little stale, so they might want to inject it with something and put Nylander back on that line.
The Leafs defense, we know it's not perfect. We know it. We know it's challenged, but this is essentially what you've got going forward. This is the group, minus plus some alterations. I don't know if somebody has to be brought up from the Marlies, if someone else gets hurt. I mean, we're waiting on Dermott. We're waiting on Gardner. How can we look at this defense, whether the leadership gets back, whether they're MIA, whether it's a patchwork? How is there any way we can look at this defense and say Godspeed, cross our fingers and pray, but also feel like, okay, you know what? If they play a steady game and they get support, they may have this.
Well, I mean, the defense is what it is right now. I don't think it's going to get any better. I mean, you're heavily relying on Gardner not being there. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. You're heavily relying on Riley, on Hainsey, which is not optimum. You don't want to be playing a 37, 38-year-old 20-plus minutes a night, but they really have no choice right now, and a little less so to Muzzin and Zaitsev. In my mind, the Marincin-Ozhiganov pairing is a nightmare. Mostly Marincin. Ozhiganov is he's just there. He's an okay player. He's not bad. He's not bad. He's not great. He's a numbers filler. Some people thought coming over the KHL he was going to be not an impact guy, but have more of an impact than he has. And I think he's just a depth defenseman. But that, right now that's what they need. I'm not surprised that they're not giving Justin Hall more of a look, because they just don't see that doesn't seem to be on the agenda of Mike Babcock. And right now, I mean, it's management in terms of Gardner's back. It's like, give him a few weeks, let things calm down, see if he can come back. Otherwise, that they're probably going to be going with something close to this into the playoffs. Dermott will hopefully be back. There was a 4-week injury with 6 weeks left to go in the season, and hopefully he can get a few games in before the end of the season. But honestly, this is one of the reasons why, if it's a Boston-Toronto matchup, that Boston would be favored. This defense is not good enough, and they will have to have Freddie Anderson again stand on his head to be able to beat them.
Yeah, the Leafs will just have to go and torch the place, right, Mike? Not carry the defense, but make it a little bit easier for them to do their jobs, knowing that you can't contain this forward group. And honestly, all things considered, I don't think you can contain the Leafs forwards. We've seen this team be behind 3-0, 4-0, 1-0, 2-0. They always come back. And against the big bad Bruins, we've talked about the Bruins getting a hot start and the Leafs just stumbling out of the gate. That's not going to help anybody. But if the Bruins pull off the gas at any point in any game against the Leafs in the playoffs, the Leafs will come back. The question is, can they go the full Monty? There's another parental advisory, Nick, against us there. Can they come back? Can they go all the way, pull all the way back and overcome the Bruins? And would you suggest that formula of falling behind early and clawing your way back to a point where you might be able to win the game is the best method of playing against the Bruins? Clearly not. Last thing, Mitch Marner's on pace for 101 points. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that Brad Marchand was talking a little trollish trash on social media after Marner put up a nice performance against the Flames, saying that he should make $12 million a year. You know, Marner's a great player. There's no doubt he's a great player. He's gonna hit it big in the summer. He deserves every dollar that he gets. I hope that the Leafs just learn a lesson from the Nylander situation and get him signed and not have a holdout going into training camp. But he's a difference maker, him and Tavares. I mean, they're going to be, if they win past the Bruins, if they advance in the playoffs, the combo of Tavares and Marner are going to be probably, exhibit A or exhibit B in the reason that they do that. But yeah, he's a great player, and he continues, even though he had a little bit of a lull in the last week or so, he turned it around and has played really well in the last few games, and that's what we've come to expect.
So who was the last Leafs to get 100 points? Was that Dougie Gilmour? Because Matt's, my legend, the god, we know you love him, by the way, got 100 points in Quebec.
I know Gilmour had 100 points in 93, and I believe in 94. I think he is the last one, yeah.
But, Mike, those days don't count. They're too far in the past.
Well, hey,
no,
as long as you have a memory.
We're losing our memories. But the thing is, what sticks out in our memory is that loss to Boston.
Yes.
Let's see if this team can pull it off. They shit-kicked Calgary. That was beautiful. And I hope they do the same to Vancouver. I don't hate a lot of teams at all, Mike. I focus my energy on the Maple Leafs. I don't have much empathy or many positive things to say about the Vancouver Canucks. I don't know what it is. And I know, the Leafs are way past that organization now. The Canucks had their run as Canada's team for a couple of minutes back in 2011. I don't really like them at all.
I think it's residual hatred from the Ryan Kessler, Alex Burrows, Luongo teams of earlier this decade. This is a different group. They're a really skilled group. I think they're very entertaining with Pettersson and Besser. But yeah, I understand. I mean, this is the team that, Dave Bolland had his career ruined from, after the laceration on his ankle. And there's not good memories when it comes to Leafs Vancouver, even going back to 94 when Pat Quinn beat the Leafs in the conference final. So I get it.
Let's see what they do tonight. They'll have fun. You'll have fun. Our Leafs converts and TLCOGs always have a lot of fun. Michael, talk to you soon, my friend.
Thanks, Norman.